Hi, today's guitar book review is on this one, which is called Essential Jazz Lines in the Style of Joe Pass. It's by someone called COREY CHRISTIANSEN, and there's a CD with this one. It's a Mel Bay published book. It came out 2001, so it's actually it's 20 years old, but it's one of the newer books that I've reviewed actually recently. So if, like me, you're into Joe Pass, then this is a book you'd be interested in. There's a lot of phrases in here. There's kind of quite a lot of content. It's not one of my favourite books of this type that I've got, I must admit. There's nothing wrong with it, and the licks in here are good. I don't think it's necessarily what it says. I mean, they're kind of in the style of Joe Pass, but they're just basic sort of standard jazz licks, most of them in here. And that's not to take anything away from them. They are really good. And there's a lot of stuff in here you can use if you're into playing over 2-5-1s, which is what this is basically dedicating itself to. But it's not necessarily going to make you sound like Joe Pass, which is a bit of a bombshell. There's one thing that's mentioned in here actually part way through. You've got all these licks and you're going through all these phrases and things, and then there's a sentence that says Joe Pass also used to use the blues scale a lot over a major chord. Doesn't give you any examples or anything, it just says that, so it might be worth experimenting with that. Well, when I saw that, I thought, oh yeah, he did, yeah. So I played a major chord, or a major 7. And after having played all these kind of jazzy sounding 2-5-1 licks that were in here, when I then suddenly did a bit of blues scale, just not anything in particular, just blues scale over a major chord, suddenly it had like a kind of Joe Pass sort of flavour to it. And I thought, oh yeah, that's kind of like a Joe Pass thing. So interesting for me when I was going through this before coming on here, that was the thing that was probably the most useful. Which is a bit weird because it wasn't actually something that's in here. It was just mentioned, but it's not actually one of these things that they're giving you. So it's not my favourite one of these kind of books, but it's still very good. I do recommend it. I think the way it's structured is excellent because he takes, as I said, 2-5-1s, but individually to begin with. So this first part of the book is one measure. So if you're English, then 1 bar, minor 7th material. So there's a whole load, like 25 little phrases lasting a bar that would work over a D minor 7 chord. So it's assuming you're playing a 2-5-1 in C, D minor 7 would be the chord 2. And there's a whole load of these little phrases which would work over the 2, over the D minor 7. And then there's 2 bar versions of not the same notes but similar things to play that last for 2 bars. And then there's a backing track on the CD which takes you through the cycle of fourths. I think they go in fourths, yeah. And so that you get to practice these things in every key. So actually it is good. It's very good the way it's structured. I just think the actual licks themselves aren't that mind-blowing really. They're mostly they're quite standard, and I think it's just the fact it's meant to be, it's a Joe Pass book, and you think, oh, if I do some of this stuff I'll sound like Joe Pass, and I don't think you necessarily will. I didn't when I was going through it, but I do think the layout's very good and the way it's sort of arranged is good. So then you've got I think there's some things on 5 chords on the dominant chord, so that'd be the 5 chord and 2-5-1. So there's similar things, 1 bar phrases over a 5 chord and then 2 bar phrases. And then you get to this, which is 2-5. So you've got a whole load, like 32 little phrases that you could play over D minor 7 to G7, which would be the 2-5 in the key of C. So it's a great idea the way it's been put together, and then you get 2 bars, those were 1 bars, these are 2 bars over 2-5. And then you've got what's this, 1 and 2 measure major chord material. Okay, so it's like where it resolves on chord 1. Here's some phrases that you could play over chord 1. And I think the idea is you put all of these together. Could be a little bit contrived, the sort of sound at first, because you learn a lick over D minor, and then you learn a lick over G, and then you learn a lick over C, then you play those 3 licks. Might not flow that well, but I suppose the idea is you get these into your brain and into your fingers, and then they'll just come out naturally. Oh, then there's a bit on minor 2/5s, not too much on those. And then there's an example of a solo that the guy who wrote the book has written this solo over a sequence of 2/5-1s. Actually, no, sorry, it's not over a sequence of 2/5-1s. It's over like a satin doll type sequence in the key of C, though, so it's similar to what's been happening in the rest of the book. And there's a solo which he plays over those chords, and it's good, but it's not it's not as good as some of the other books like this I've seen. Like this solo, it's not as good as, like, I did a review of an Ike Isaacs book, and it's not as good as the stuff that's in there, I don't think, anyway. So yeah, that's not like a big criticism particularly. I think it is a good book, and it's worth getting, but it isn't the best book of its type that I've seen. So yeah, anyway, so it's Essential Jazz Lines in the Style of Joe Pass by COREY CHRISTIANSEN. Okay, thanks.